Hi, my name's EJ. I'm an urban missionary here in downtown Toronto. We are living in some interesting times. I just thought I would update you on what life and ministry has been like for us here in downtown Toronto. I hope you enjoy. You know, it's hard to capture the past 6 months. COVID-19 definitely has changed a lot of how we function and how we live. But I think I just realized this week that I was just kind of reflecting on what's been going on, and I remember the early COVID days, the confusion, the hardship of having to change the rhythm of life. And I'm sure I'm not unique to everyone else, you know. All of a sudden, my normal things that I'm able to do, I can't do, and all of a sudden we're wrestling with stay-at-home orders, and for my wife and I, we have a toddler, and all of a sudden we're parenting full-time while trying to navigate doing ministry and doing online meetings. But you know, as I think about that, God did some pretty amazing things. We accidentally actually started an online ministry. I remember one day I decided, hey, I'm just gonna post a devotional online, and I thought I would just send it to our small little group. And because I made a mistake, I just kind of got frustrated, clicked start. Next thing you know, I was broadcasting to all of my Facebook. And a lot of our people in my group, in my Facebook, are not really church people. So all of a sudden, word got out there, and I thought, well, that was kind of a fun mistake. That'll never happen again. But you know, after that first video, we heard from a lot of people who do not come from a place of faith. And it was amazing to hear them connect. And since then, we've been kind of posting a lot of teachings online, and really amazing how that's kind of hilariously happened, an accidental online ministry. I remember too, in the early days, I would arrange these prayer meetings with fellow urban leaders who, some of us would be more in the advocacy stage and the backdrop, doing phone calls and meetings, but some were still in the front lines. And I remember one of my friends, he's director of a shelter, and told me that, you know, due to a bunch of reasons, a bunch of his staff were actually unable to work, and that if he lost any more staff, they would have to contemplate possibly closing this men's shelter. And I remember as he said that, I kind of felt this nudge from the Holy Spirit saying, EJ, you need to respond. In the early stages of COVID, definitely it was dangerous. And I remember Cheryl and I praying about, okay, just kind of had the sense that we had to do this, and we understood that this meant that we would be at risk as a family. But then as I thought about it, I was actually at peace and realized that not only do I have to obey because the Holy Spirit was asking me to do this, but the most dangerous place is actually living outside of God's will. That if I actually decided to look after my own personal safety and the safety of my family, that was actually putting my own family in danger. Now, after a couple months and after COVID cases have kind of tapered down, and some more safety measures were started in the shelter, some staff were able to come back, and you know, after a couple months now, I'm grateful to have helped them for that season, and then now I'm no longer working a shelter. Those early days of COVID was like that, right? You just kind of figure out what to do. And now as we're in the middle parts, you know, navigating reopening and stuff like that, it's actually quite amazing to us that we still have a voice to advocate in the community. You know, I've done a lot of online meetings with some of our political leaders, and even recently we've been able to get permission to do outdoor worship services. We've been doing it once a month, and I think our last one was quite a success. We had a lot of people surprised and grateful to hear music and join us, and they just waited at the back and asked for some song lyrics, and actually now we're waiting to see what's going to happen in our next one. It doesn't matter what kind of restrictions there are out there, but if you live as a person of the Holy Spirit, God is still inviting us to do some unique work. And definitely right now, some things are opening up. I had some great news last week. I'm able to do some one-on-one visits back in the South Detention Center, and so yesterday I was able to do my first visit, and it was so encouraging to see, one of my brothers, one of my disciples, and to pray for him and encourage him. But as we are still in this stage, I kind of recognize that we have to still continue serving God. A lot of the things we're doing now is just kind of sowing, and that if we are faithful to where God is calling us to do ministry, we would harvest later. Because one day, our current reality is just going to disappear. This pandemic won't last forever. At some point in time, it's going to end. I'm not sure when it's going to end, but that doesn't mean it's not going to end. But I do pray that if we remain faithful, including myself, that if we remain faithful to God's call and we remain sensitive to listening to the Holy Spirit and living in obedience, that after COVID is done, I'm praying that my community and my neighborhood, my city, will transform, that something good is going to happen. And I'm grateful that even though we're going through hardship right now, there are still some good things happening. I pray our narrative of ministry here encourages you that something is still possible, that God is still at work, that COVID-19 is not the final word on all things. Jesus is still at work, that no pandemic can actually stop the work of the Holy Spirit, that literally even physical restrictions are incapable of stopping God to move through people's hearts. And I'm really praying that after this is all said and done, a lot of people are going to transform and realize that God is inviting all of us to be in a relationship with Him. God bless you, and thank you for tuning in.